Whether you like it or not, your watch speaks volumes about who you are as a person, what you're interested in, what you're like temperamentally, how good you might be at business. So today, Sam's going to be throwing a bunch of watches my way, and I'll be telling you what I would think about you and what I think most people will really think about you. So let's get into it.
Starting off, what does a Rolex Yacht-Master Titanium say about you?
So what I think it says about you, right, me being a watch guy, the first thing I would naturally think is, how did he get that allocation? I mean, he must really have a huge watch collection. Like this guy must be really like a player, right? Of course. The second thing I would think about you is that you've got great taste. I mean, I would probably judge by the rest of your clothing whether you bought this as a hype watch or whether it's actually like your style and you actually like it. Because I think this is a great, tasteful watch. I think it's actually one of the best Yacht-Masters Rolex has ever made. I think it's a really logical Yacht-Master, right? I think that, what's the difference between a Yacht-Master and a sub was the question years ago. And the answer was the Yacht-Master was kind of just the richer sub because it had a platinum bezel on it. But that was, or white or yellow gold. That was it, right? It wasn't really, wasn't really very different. And frankly, it was less desirable. And even further, frankly, as the Submariner became even more luxurious, that delta even really closed, right? So now the Yacht-Master, I think, because Rolex has pushed it so far, has become its own collection, right? The Yacht-Master in its precious form, in its rose gold or white gold form, has the Oyster Flex bracelet. So it actually is A, luxurious because it's precious, and B, actually built to be on a boat. Right, unlike a sub, right, it's much heavier, much more prone to scratching, right? The precious Yacht-Masters are actually fantastic, right? Rich guy boat watches, and then this titanium version, maybe is the ultimate, taking out of the equation the hard to get factor. It's actually perfect, right? Because it's not precious, but because it's an allocation, it's impossible to get, and impossible to get is becoming of a man on a very large boat. But even on a material end, like, it's light, it's durable, it's perfect for your sailing yacht. It's perfect. What does everyone else think? It's a sub. Like, no, people that don't know watches, no one is going to think I think it will actually fly very much under the radar in many crowds of people. Many crowds of people will think you are wearing a Rolex Submariner. And if you polled those people on what they think a Submariner costs, they would say, oh my God, it's a fortune. Like, $10,000. And they'd be right, but their perspective at $10,000 is like an insane amount to spend on a watch, whereas in the watch community, $10,000 is of course a lot, but we know that the limits are far, far higher than the average people, right, understand that they are. So that is what I think that the Rolex Yacht-Master says about you from a watch guy and from a regular person.
Perfect. Moving on, what does Aaron Rodgers' Zenith El Primero say about you?
Again, it's a limited watch, limited to 250 pieces. So that's, so how, I guess, how did you get it? But it's more like, well, you must really like Aaron Rodgers, right? I don't think that's again, as a watch guy who knows something about the watch, as opposed to just being like, well, I'll get into that in a second, but it's green, right? Someone that knows something about watches is going to say, what a weird thing that you bought. You spent $13,000 on Aaron Rodgers memorabilia. Weird, right? And I like Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, he slip on his first game, right? That was bad. Is that someone else?
That was him.
That was him, yeah. So that was bad. But the dude is like really getting out there in pop culture, huh?
He tore his ACL.
And he's really getting out there in pop culture. That's kind of a funny thing. I'm actually going to see Aaron Rodgers next week at a thing, and I think that's cool. And then I was like, oh, we'll post it on LinkedIn. That'll like show that, we're out there and doing really cool things. And then I was like, oh, wait, are some of our clients going to think that's cool? Because he's like he's big out there in the political sphere now. Anyway, what do I think it says about you? It says that you have an unhealthy, obsession with Aaron Rodgers, because that's just weird. And then to the average person, it's just, it's just that it's like a green watch. It's just a green watch, and that's fun. It's a green, nice watch. So normal people are going to be like, wow, he's unusual. Right? That's an unusual guy. And then the watch people are going to say, like, it had to be his Aaron Rodgers obsession that made him spend $13,000 on that, because there are cooler green watches. Like there are better looking Zeniths like than this watch. You know what I mean? Like I can go in the Zenith collection right now and pick out 3 cooler Zeniths like that, 2 seconds. So it has to be your obsession with Aaron Rodgers that you got this.
I think this is the El Primero for you, but anyway.
Next one.
Patek Philippe weekly calendar.
Patek Philippe weekly calendar. Oh, yeah. So the Patek Philippe weekly calendar, from a watch guy's perspective, says you're a young, casual, high-income earning professional, white collar, that will soon no longer be as casual, will embrace grandpa style, right? Because you're in the world of complicated Patek, so you're going to get the bug for Grandpa Patek. Like, you're going to get the bug for perpetuals or annuals. You're going to get the bug even further down for crazier stuff than that. I mean, you know, chronos and you precious metal. Like, you're going to get the Patek bug really, really seriously. The weekly calendar, I think, is one of the coolest, you know, new Pateks that they've made. I think it came out in 2018 or 2019. Totally new complication for the brand. Really casual font, stainless steel case, cool sizing, you know, calf like light strap, very casual watch, but still not a sports watch. So it's more formal, more traditional than a lot of the Patek craze that we saw, right? From the Aquanaut and from the Nautilus. The guy that bought a weekly calendar is just a grandpa in the wait. Like, he's just waiting to be converted to full grandpa, which I love, right? What does the average person think about that watch? I think the average person would look closer because the dial is interesting. Average people love complicated dials. So they will look closer and then they will see the name and they will think they will think you are incredibly wealthy, because the average person has insane you know, like, perceived value of the brand Patek Philippe. Of course, it's a great brand, but I think that, you know, it's like it's total God level money. Like, you know, they'll think you're probably far richer than you are if you're wearing that watch. Period. But again, the average person is going to also, you know, think that it's an educated, mild-mannered watch. It's complicated and you're clearly rich, but it's educated and mild-mannered. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at IFL Watches, who have just released an awesome piece based on the Seiko 5. It's called the Seiko Gravity. And as with all IFL pieces, the dials are completely customized and absolutely incredible. If you look here at the hand-painted dial, you've got an astronaut just floating through space and the cosmos with the Earth in the background. And I think it really is one of the most beautiful IFL creations to date. I love the theme balanced with the complication, being a Seiko 5 GMT, the sports watch with this travel complication, always having represented, you know, man's desire to be elsewhere or to see more, right? To push the boundaries of our own comfort. And I think that this theme here, this gravity, just nails that right on the head. The Seiko 5, of course, also just being really one of the watch industry's most beloved and praised pieces at its price point specifically, right? These are affordable watches, and IFL has just turned up the heat and elevated them with these, again, hand-painted, totally customized, limited dials in this Gravity collection. I love IFL Watches as a brand. We've been in partnership with them for a while, and every time they release a new limited drop, I can't wait to share it with you all. I know these watches do very often sell out very, very quickly, but always stay tuned on the IFL Watches website, be it for something awesome like this Seiko 5 GMT, Gravity, or any number of their custom G-Shocks that I also think are absolutely terrific, right? IFL represents so much of what we love in the watch industry, having fun with color, being creative, pushing our own boundaries, and, you know, not kind of conforming, right, to the norm. So anyway, great release from IFL with their Gravity. Head on over to IFL Watches. Link is down below. Thank you for sponsoring today's episode, and everyone, go take a look at IFL Watches.
IWC Portuguese Perpetual calendar.
So I know a guy that bought one of these in yellow gold. The IWC Portuguese Perpetual calendar is a great watch, but if it's on the newer side, it screams you know nothing about watches, because you probably bought that new, because it represents value at $44,000, whatever the retail is, for a precious metal perpetual, right? That's like big and great. And the movement's incredible and the straps are great. Like, IWC does a good job selling this watch. And it's a great watch. But if you know anything about watches, you know that you can get a comparable watch and scratch the same itch for half the price. Like, you go to sell that watch to a dealer, they don't care what you paid. You're going to get offered like 17 grand, like maybe 20 grand max. The next day. That's what happened to my buddy. My buddy bought the watch. I think he paid like $44,000 with tax, and I think he got 20 for it like 3 months later. So yeah, any watch guy is gonna know that if that watch is, particularly if it's new, if they think you bought that watch new, then you're a novice and you're even a mark, right? To be sold a whole world of things that are super profitable. What does the average person think? Unlike the Patek weekly calendar, which is going to give you a rep of like, maturity and conservatism and, whatever, kind of flying under the radar, grandpa, this is not grandpa. And I love the Portuguese collection, but this watch is baller. It has a lot of flash. It's shinier. It's bigger. It's a hockey puck. The dial is even larger, and it's everything. It's like 44 millimeters or something. I mean, this watch is a sign that says, "I've got money" to the unsuspecting. To like the regular person, this watch is a sign that screams, "I have money," right? Whereas the Patek weekly absolutely, does not from the same distance. When you look closer, the brand will tell you they have money, but this, independent of the brand name, this watch screams, "I have money."
What does the JLC Reverso chronograph say about you?
This is a great one. The JLC Reverso chronograph to a watch guy says you must be somebody that you got an allocation. Right? Those watches are hard to get. I know someone that flew in from Texas into New York to pick up their watch. They got an allocation. They flew to pick it up, and they stayed like 2 nights in the city, right? And this is like an important person. Like this is not someone with nothing to do, right? Which is how he got the allocation as well, right? So yeah, you're definitely somebody to JLC. And if you're somebody to JLC, that means you're probably somebody to a lot of other brands, because JLC is not the first brand that you become somebody to. It's not the brand that anyone, like most people are most passionate about first, right? Or that's not where their first. JLC is not where anyone's first $20,000 in watch spend goes to. Maybe it's where your first $7,000 goes to, but then your next 13 are going elsewhere, generally speaking, right? So to build up that spend history, you must be somebody, and to a watch guy, you are a person of incredible taste. This is a fantastic watch. Yeah, relatively speaking, of course, it's a lot of money. There's no question. But this is a baller, smart guy's watch. This is someone that's been in watches for a while. You have a ton of street cred. You walk in the room with this, a ton. What does it say to the average person? Well, that's the beautiful thing about the Reverso. On one side, it says nothing at all. Totally fly under the radar. Sharp, Batman's watch. No one will think or say anything. Flip it. You flip it, you show them that chrono, they'd have to really look. And if they did, they would probably think that you're a genius. They'd probably think that you're the smartest person they've ever met. They would never admit that, because no one ever likes to admit that. But they'd probably think that. Yeah.
Last but not least, the Rolex Stella.
This is a good vintage one. What does a Rolex Stella say about you? Rolex Stella watches are watches that are manufactured mostly in the 70s and 80s, and their dials aren't enamel. Their dials are lacquered. And a Rolex Stella, definitely says that you have a lot of taste. There's no question there. But a Rolex Stella, to a watch guy, someone with a little bit of knowledge, says that you live on the edge, man. Those Stella lacquer dials chip. They chip. There's no doubt about it. And it's unpredictable how they're going to chip, or when they're going to chip, or how much they're going to chip, or when they're going to stop chipping. And all the value is in the dial, right? A regular day date could be a $10,000 watch. The dial inside of it is $30,000. That dial starts to chip, the value chips right away. The value starts chipping down to 20, and it becomes a burden. No one even will buy it from you because they don't know. It's a hot potato game, right? So if you are a Stella guy, unless it's truly immaculate, unless it's probably a later reference with a flat dial, quick set, non-pie pan, those guys are a little bit safer. But 4-digit Rolex, guys, meaning with a pie pan dial, you either have a high tolerance for risk, or you just, someone told you this was cool and you like the color and you just have more money than sense. And I know those guys too, for sure. I love Stellas, but I certainly don't have the tolerance for them. I don't have the risk tolerance for them, nor do I have the budget to allow my dials to chip away. Spending money on a watch is very different than spending money on a watch that is decreasing in value by the second. Two very different things, right? And I think that Stellas are dangerous. That being said, they are the most succulent of treats. Day dates from green to blue to yellow. They're just an oxblood. Oh my God. All the different shades of all those different colors. Fabulous watches. Absolutely fabulous watches. I think that, a more safe version of Stella is to buy vintage patented day dates. That's it. I have one in my personal collection, the one purple. I was at a dinner or I was at a party the other day. Guy I know has one, double quick day date, yellow gold with a pink dial, a perfect pink purple dial, pink purple, somewhere between there. That watch is in no risk of chipping. That watch is perfectly fine, all good. Stella's much more expensive and much riskier, right? I think the money is in patented stuff, and they're out there. And a patented, vintage Rolex says a whole different set of things, right? That you're someone that is probably really into watches because you're deep enough into watches where you love the story, right? You're deep enough into watches where you love the fact that this vintage piece has been around the world, right, for the last 30 or 40 or 50 years, right? And it also says that you've got just a lot of, individuality and individual taste, right? Because it takes a certain kind of person to wear a pink dial watch, right? Or a patented sub that went blue or whatever, it takes a certain kind of person. But anyway, it was fun. I think that's great. Let's do it again soon.
Definitely.
If you guys want to talk more about watches, head on over to The Zero, where we talk about watches every single week. We release a whole new podcast. We do meetups in the city for our members. We talk about watches in a way that we just can't on YouTube, in a way that is unfiltered, super educational, entertaining. We have different guests on over there. It's a great place. If you are already a Zero, go in, sign in, say hello. And if you are not yet, join and shoot me a message and say hi, and we'll chat watches. That's it. See you guys over there.